Good evening, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the evening of Sunday, the 26th of July. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to shoot trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at CTM The Bigger Picture.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of a week. All right, great. Let's have a look at ES. Now, ES, obviously there's been some developments on the Iran front over the weekend, and peace hasn't broken out, but an informal ceasefire has broken out. There has been talk of the Americans were apparently proposing to go back to the MOU, which the Iranians have completely rejected because I'm sure they completely failed last time. So why would it be any different this time? But the Americans are making overtures about having talks again, and the Iranians are basically saying yes, but first you have to concede that we're controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Second, we want some of our frozen money back, which we didn't get under the MOU, which was agreed. And third, we might at that stage be prepared to talk about nuclear stuff. So not that close to formal talks at the moment, and not that close to a full ceasefire. But nonetheless, this has sent oil down and it's sent equities up. So ES at the time of recording this is up 46, with the evening market having opened about an hour ago. I am wondering about a break over this trend line here. I do have some indications of bullishness that I was looking at yesterday, and I'll go through those. One of those was the possible weak 6-minute buy signal brewing on NQ, and obviously that is now fixed, and we've got a potential level bottom here if we can get enough traction to the upside. RTY, we've broken down from a head and shoulders here, but obviously this goes one of two ways. Either we would expect to get down to the head and shoulder target in the 28-23 area, or we'd expect to reject back up to the highs, with the basically the cutoff point being get a move over the right shoulder high in about the 30-30 area. Looking at YM, again, we've broken down from head and shoulders here. The right shoulder high would be at about the 53,125 area, and break above that, and we can see a rejection back up to the high. Till then, we've got a head and shoulder target in the 5780 area. DAX, squint a bit and you might be able to see an inverted head and shoulders here, but it's not a great looking pattern. But on the other hand, if we see a break over 25 425 area, probably I'd be drawing that in. ESTX, we've got a possible head and shoulders forming. Obviously that could turn into a double top with a retest of the high. Nikkei hasn't actually not seen a lot of action so far, but I'm wondering about seeing a move up here. We still have a decent looking bull flag here overall, so we'll see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. Okay, and let's have a look at SPX. Now, ES first. ES, obviously, we had a break it back over the daily middle band that lasted a day or two last week, and then we broke back below it, and we were testing the daily lower band. I do have, and this is something I was talking about on the, I'll look at again on the 60-minute chart on SPX, I do have a possible consolidation triangle here, and a consolidation triangle in this instance, of course, would tend to act as a bull flag and set up a potential retest of the all-time high. On SPX, test of the daily lower band yesterday. Obviously, if we are going to see a move up to the upside, we closed at about 74.11. I've got the daily middle band at 74.99. Obviously, we're only halfway there really on the rally overnight. That together with the 50 DMA, which I've got at 74.72, are the main resistance levels here. We need to break back and break back over those and convert them to support. We've still got daily RSI 14 sell signals fixed across the board. None of those have made target. Looking at the hourly chart here, if you have a look at this triangle here, this is really not bad. I was looking at this on Thursday night and Friday, thinking that if we didn't see a breakdown below this triangle support, it could be, of course, that we're heading back into the triangle resistance. And the way I would consider this would be A, B, C, we'd say D, little pullback, partial wave, and then we'd see a retest of the high. So again, that is a potentially bullish setup, and we didn't go back and retest this low. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at the 15-minute chart, where there was not a lot to see, really. We've got a little head and shoulders, which is broken down with a target at 72.94. Whether or not that makes target, we will see. All right, looking at the Qs, we were well below the daily lower band, and actually thinking about a move to the 2SD daily lower band. But what I would say is we had a full retest of that low, and that means that we've got a potential double bottom here. I'll just draw that in. I drew in a potential overall bull flag setup here as well, but let's just draw that. Now that isn't a double bottom that would get us all the way back up into the high, but it wouldn't get us that far away. It would certainly get us back to the flag resistance. So I am wondering about this resistance at 710 and a breakup, which would be looking for a move really at about the, what would that be? About the 737 area. So yeah, that would pretty much get us back into flag resistance. So wondering about that. We had a possible weak RSI 14 buy signal brewing. We had a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing. And if we see that if this lasts into the open tomorrow, then there's a good chance that both of those are going to fix. On the 15-minute chart, we had an RSI 14 buy signal which had fixed, and obviously we've got that potential level top. All right, looking at Dia. Dia have made it to the daily lower band, and this means that actually currently, and this is a bit of a mountain to climb to get back up into bullish action here. We've got to get back over the daily middle bands on all four of these. So obviously that daily middle band is in about about 523. We will see how that goes. We do have a head and shoulder pattern which is broken down. I've marked that in here with a target in the 510 area and a potential larger head and shoulder neckline at about the 512.5 area. Potentially, we could be forming that now, but I'd want to, if this was the case, I'd want it to be confirmed with a high in about the 522 area, or not that far away. All right, let's have a look at IWM. And looking at the daily chart here, obviously we're closed well below the daily middle band. I've got that at 295.86. We will see how that goes. But I'm not sure how seriously to take this piece breaking out. At the moment, we've just got the Americans aren't bombing, and so the Iranians aren't bombing. So as far as I'm aware, the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. The Bab el-Mandab Strait is still closed to Saudi traffic, and the Americans are still blockading the Iranians. This is some way short of a meaningful ceasefire. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, we are seeing some reason to think that we might see some optimism here. We will see how that goes. We shall see. All right, looking at DAX. DAX, not that far below the daily middle band. Break above could set up a retest of the all-time high. Nikkei, significantly below the daily middle band, but a break above 68,000 convert that to support, and potentially this could be a bull flag and set up that high retest as well. I did think that we had a buy signal brewing on one of these. Hang on, let me just check through. I thought it was on Dia or QQQ. Yes, Dia. We've got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing on Dia, and that I was looking at earlier and thinking that was potentially significantly bullish. So if we do see a decent move up tomorrow, and obviously it holds into the close, because we would need a daily close for this, then we get an RSI 5 buy signal there, which tends to be a pretty good signal. Not that we've had that many of those on this chart. It's mainly been sell signals. All right, great. Let's have a look at DX. Okay, DX, when peace breaks out, or at least when it looks as though peace might break out, then you tend to see a bit of weakness on the dollar, and we are seeing a little weakness so far. It's not an awful lot, but obviously we're seeing a bit of a rally on the euro as well. GBP USD testing declining resistance. USD JPY pulling back very slightly, having made higher highs. USD CAD. Still not sure what's happening here, actually. Australian dollar hasn't reached the flag support, and we've got a double top which is thinking about breaking down or possibly forming our head and shoulders here. So still forming. NZ, again, not quite sure what's happening here. We've got an IHS here, and this is what I'm basically thinking is either we head up to that IHS target in the 59.63 area, or this head and shoulders fails, gets down below this support in the 57,400 area, and a break below that opens up a retest of the low. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. Okay, US dollar. Nothing on the daily charts really. Still need to get back up to this last high here at 101.8 and continue higher. We've not quite made that yet. Obviously, we would have the option of making a double top there. Bigger picture, we've still got the very nice bull flag on US dollar, nice looking bear flag on Euro, GBP, nice bear flag too. So these are all worth keeping an eye on. In terms of the daily chart, not a lot to see. I was wondering whether this could possibly be a bull flag on the daily chart, but officially at the moment, the main setup here is a asymmetric double top, which is broken down with a target in the 110.19 to 108.55 area. GBP USD, we got a double top here too, but that one hasn't broken down yet, and we haven't had a conviction break below the wedge support, although it's certainly think about it, and we had a little Pinocchio below here. USD JPY. We've got a possible, sorry, I'm written that incorrectly. We've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal is brewing. Hang on. This is a better quality one than the last one, which was weak and failed. So we will see how that goes. But this may well deliver nothing, of course. And I've actually got quite a lot of space here on the upside. I was talking about, before we made the retest of 162, I was saying this could potentially get up as high as 169, 170 without actually messing up this nice rising megaphone here. But a break below that would be a break. A break above that would be a breakout. USD CAD. Still wondering about a retest of this high here at 147.93. We have a nice looking double bottom here, which has actually broken up with a target at a retest of the February high at 147.93. So that's looking pretty good. Seeing a bit of a pullback at the moment. We'll see how that goes. Australian dollar. We're actually on a monthly RSI 5 sell signal here. We've got a nice looking double top here. It hasn't broken down yet. NZ USD. Still bigger picture, we're in a triangle which is thinking about breaking up. If we see some significant downside, then I'd be looking for potential support at this trend line here, which I've got in about the 550 area. All right, no current divergence, no divergence on any of the daily charts there. All right, let's have a look at bonds. All right, ZB. ZB, we've got, we're seeing a bit of a rally here. I did draw in a potential falling wedge here, which could be a setup for a breakup and a rally. So obviously we're making it back. We're heading back up towards the wedge resistance, which I've got in about the 110.21 area. This hasn't quite retested this low, which is the target, and looks like unfinished business below. ZN has retested that low. Not quite as nice a pattern here. I didn't really have a nice looking wedge. I drew in the obvious trend line, but it doesn't look as though that's going to be making it short term. I didn't have a better one than that. But I was wondering about a rally here, and we are seeing a little bit of a rally. Looking at the bigger picture, though, there's plenty of scope for further downside, but obviously that would be helped along by more war and less jaw. Looking at the TYX daily chart, we've got this weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed, and I was wondering if we'd see some upside on bonds and downside on yields, but we've seen the opposite. We haven't quite retested this high yet, which is the obvious next target. In terms of the hourly chart here, the RSI 14 sell signal reached the possible near miss target. I am wondering about this as a rising wedge, which kind of mirrors the falling wedge I've got on ZB. Looking at the much bigger picture, obviously we've still got possible inverted head and shoulders forming. The TYX one is starting to break up. The TNX one isn't close to breaking up yet, but maybe heading back towards the resistance here, the more the US is on an uncontrolled path of borrowing, the more likely it is that this is going to start breaking up and that we might potentially get close to a bonds crisis. In terms of TNX on the daily, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal here. That hasn't quite failed yet, but it's thinking about it. We did, the obvious next target was a retest of this high here at 46.87, and we have seen that. On the 60-minute chart, not a lot to see. Obviously, this could be a potential level top. FVX, we got a triangle which is breaking up. Ultimate target here should be a retest of this high here at 49.88. And of course, we've got a triangle on TNX as well. You can see that best on this one here. And that's got a target at a retest of this high here at 49.97. Looking at TLT, on the daily chart, possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing. Possible setup for a rally here. The more talk we have of peace, the more likely it is to be good for bonds, and the more talk we have of war, the more likely it is to be bad for bonds. So at the moment, we're looking at probably a bonds rally next week. Hourly chart, not a lot to see. All right, let's have a look at oil, which is obviously looking pretty interesting today. Now, one thing I was saying on Friday was that if we were going to see a meaningful pullback on oil, then ideally that would reach the 70 level on the RSIs. It didn't manage that last week, but it does look as though it might manage it today. Because there's talk of a ceasefire here, even if the Iranians are showing very little interest so far in coming to the table, and probably won't unless they're offered some significant concessions. So nonetheless, that has pulled down from the close on Friday. That went down about $5 or so, and has rallied back some of that so far. We'll see how that develops, but I think the pattern we've seen so far on this is a slightly more orderly turn. So I'll talk about that on the bigger picture charts. CL, pretty similar again. This actually fell a little more, I think. Yeah, this actually fell almost $7. Got a couple of dollars above that back so far. HO's fallen quite a bit. RBOB, which is gasoline, has fallen quite a bit too, and finally made the sell signal target here. In terms of NG, NG has broken up for a double bottom here, and that appears to be rejecting. But this isn't an IHS where we get a sort of a midway point where we know it's failed. We know it's failed when it comes back into the retest of the low, but that's looking increasingly likely and may just set off another leg down. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And all right, Brent, on the daily chart, what I was talking about was getting back into the 70 level on the RSI 5, although obviously at this point, we could actually set up negative divergence on the RSI 14, but it's the RSI 5 one that I would mainly be watching. This means that from what we've seen overnight tonight, because this is a real-time chart and it's showing tonight's action, we need to not drop much more, because if we are going to set up sell signal here, and we've been pretty good at setting up divergences on the buy side and the sell side, if we're going to set up that divergence, it needs to not go down much more, go back, retest the high, and if we are then going to see a more significant reversal, that's when we would generally see it. It doesn't have to happen that way, and obviously it is subject to the news. On Brent, hang on. Right, Brent, we had a decent looking channel here, and we are actually overthrough, so it wasn't quite a channel, but that's broken down now anyway. And I'm going to be watching when we reach a short-term low here for setting up a decent-looking trend line, possibly giving us an upside pattern. In terms of WTIC, I'm again looking for a low run. We're basically looking for the 50 level to be respected on the RSI 5. Not that interested in the RSI 14, but we will be a bit more interested if we get a divergence forming. In terms of the hourly chart, we did have a perfect channel here. We looked at this. I was looking at this trend line first, and then this trend line moved down slightly, and then I drew in a channel resistance trend line, and it hit it perfectly. So this has broken down. Got to say, we've not retraced an awful lot of it here so far, and even if it's a bullish retracement, we might. So let's just have a quick look at that. Bear with me a moment, if the chart is going to cooperate with me. It's a bit hot here. It slows down the computer. All right. Looking at heating oil, still leaning towards seeing a retest of this high here at 4.71. This looks an awful lot like a bull flag that's broken up, but we can see some more retracement. Ideally, if we're going to see negative divergence, it would respect the 50 level. In terms of the hourly chart, we had a weak 6-minute buy signal fix. That's just failed. Didn't really have a pattern here, although now that I know we've got a turn. Oh, okay, I'll have the same problem. All right, gas oil. This has actually gone below the RSI 5 50 level, but of course it all depends where it actually closes. But here we've had less of a pattern of buy signals and sell signals than we've had on Brent or on WTIC. On the hourly chart, this had we'd broken up from an IHS with a target in the 3.51 area, and that was the last of these to reach target. We got up to 3.53. Pulling back here and waiting to see whether this how this shows up on the daily chart, and weighing whether or not we're likely to see a retest of last week's high. In terms of natural gas, we've got a weak RSI 5 buy signal fixed, and that obviously isn't delivering anything so far. We're probably going to see a retest of this low. I am wondering, after this rejection at the 200 DMA, whether we're going to see a retest of this low here at 2.49. All right, great. Let's have a look at metals. All right, GC. GC hasn't retested the low here. It could be the low is in, but not with a nice looking double bottom. So we will see how that goes, but I'm still wondering about a possible retest of the low. SI, we did see the retest of the low. We've got a beautiful looking double bottom here. On palladium, looked like a flag breaking down, but didn't actually retest the low. Platinum broke down, didn't retest the low. I am wondering about unfinished business on both of those. Looking at HG, HG could be a bet. We've got a double top which broke down here and hasn't gone anywhere since. I am wondering whether this could be a bear flag, but if it gets any higher, then it isn't a bear flag because it's too big. All right, let's have a look at that on the bigger picture charts and looking at gold. Okay, I've been doing some drawing on here. This, I've got to say, I like it here. I really do. This is a nice looking channel. When of course we have a bull flag channel here overall. We've got this smaller channel here, which is now broken up. And while at this stage I'd kind of be looking for a probable retest of the low, we don't absolutely have to have one. We've already got a big double bottom here. So I am wondering about this heading off into the upside. The RSI 5 buy signal has reached a possible near miss target, but the RSI 14 buy signal has not made target yet and may well be working up to it. We've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed on silver as well. Haven't quite reached the obvious trend line support that I was looking at, but nonetheless, very nice looking double bottom here. This could, and a nice pattern here, which is also broken up. In terms of palladium, no current divergence. Wondering, we've got a potential double bottom here already. Doesn't need to retest the low, but I was wondering whether it would. On platinum, we don't have an obvious reversal pattern yet, and I'm very much wondering about a retest the low. We do have an RSI 14 buy signal already fixed. Looking at copper, we broke down from this double top. We've retraced most of that, and actually on here, this already looks too large to be a bear flag forming. I am wondering at this point about a possible retest of the high here at 6.653. Looking at GDX, wondering about a low here, nice looking bottoming setup. GDXJ the same. All right, let's have a look at the other commodities. All right, KC. KC, this still looks like a bullish consolidation, more flag than triangle now. SB, wondering about a bullish consolidation as well. I would love to see a retest this low here, but I'm not sure it's ready. We've got this double top breakdown a while ago, and it hasn't really delivered anything since. CC, this could be a head and shoulders that is broken down with a target in the 5400 area, but actually looking at it, I think you can see this, it wouldn't actually make a bad looking flag either. So I am wondering whether this is going to break up and retest this high in the 65.50 area, I think. Looking at lumber, got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, and we are pulling back a bit. CT, I'm keeping an open mind on this one, but I've got more to say on the daily chart. CW, we are seeing a bit of a pullback now on corn. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback. I'm wondering about a test of the rising support, which is currently in the 475 area. We've barely retraced at all on soy, but we've got a potential little level top here on ZL. Still expecting to see a retest of this high here in about the 74.7 area. Live cattle, we've got a weak 6-minute buy signal here, which hasn't really delivered much on the way in the way of upside, but this could be a little inverted head and shoulders forming. Bigger picture, we've got a head and shoulders that's broken down with a target in the 204.45 area. On HE, we've got a on lean hogs, we've got an IHS, nice IHS, which is broken up with a target in the 92.50 area. We've got a sell signal fixed here too. That's really delivered absolutely nothing so far, and we're now halfway to the inverted head and shoulder target. All right, looking at the bigger picture charts on coffee. Very nice rally here. We're pulling back, and I'm wondering about a bullish consolidation. This kind of looks like a flag forming, and we've also got an IHS which is broken up with a target in the 317 area. Now, it's not a great IHS, but it's not awful either. We will see how that goes. In terms of signals here, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal, and that's reached possible near miss target. All right, sugar, bigger picture, I've got a head and shoulders breaking down a long way below, but in the shorter picture, I've got this very nice looking falling wedge, which is starting to break up. The reason I was saying I'd quite like to see a retest of the low is because that could set up a very nice looking little double bottom to set up more of a rally. In terms of the daily chart here, this might be a consolidation triangle forming before a retest of the low here at 13.34, and no real divergence on the daily chart. Looking at cocoa, we saw a very nice breakdown. I was never expecting these targets to get made. They were too big. I commented that when we broke down. So this made a very good move here and has now rallied considerably. Where's it going from here? Well, this could be an inverted head and shoulder pattern forming. I'm wondering about potentially a bit more downside, ideally a right shoulder low in the 48, 43 area, and we're down in the 551.65 area. But actually, even if it went up directly from here, potentially this would be a pretty nice looking inverted head and shoulders, which would have a target, I think, in about the 10,780 area. Do I think that's likely? Well, I've got to say, I wouldn't be that surprised if we didn't get back. We didn't convert a level above 6,500 for the next few years. It was the first time it had ever been up here. But on the other hand, at least that ground is broken, maybe. We shall see. It's a nice looking possible IHS forming anyway. Lumber, very nice bearish setup overall on the long-term chart with a target in the 352 area, and price which is doing absolutely nothing together. Short term though, we got a possible, this is, I need to correct this if I can. This isn't a weak RSI 14 sell signal. This is a possible full-size RSI 14 sell signal. So we've got a nice looking daily sell signal brewing on the lumber chart, and sorry, I seem to have been absent-minded while I was doing this chart earlier. There's no current divergence on this one, but that's a nice looking potential sell signal on the daily RSI 14. I am wondering whether we might see some more downside. I've got potential trendline resistance slightly above, and we haven't quite reached that yet. In terms of cotton, we've got we had a double bottom. It broke up, it made target. We've seen a bit of a pullback. We've back tested the broken resistance area, and we may be returning to retest our high. We've actually got a double bottom, which is broken up with a target in the 87.30 area. So I'm thinking very much in terms of a possible retest of that high. We shall see. In terms of the wheat chart, we've got a nice looking double bottom, which is broken up with the target in the 739 to 742 area. We're seeing a bit of a pullback here, but I'm not seeing anything to suggest really that we won't make that target. We shall see. In terms of the daily chart, we've got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed, nothing on the RSI 14, and we're seeing a bit of a pullback with that. After that, I'm expecting it to go up further, particularly as we're going to have a delayed reaction to fertilizer getting more expensive after the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and that is likely to be pushing all of the grains up. In terms of the corn weekly chart, we've got, I was absent-minded here. The weak RSI 14 buy signal. Oh no, of course that's the spot price. Sorry, that's gone up since the reopen. So at the risk of that actually coming back and making this untrue before the next close, I'll mark that in as no current divergence. So that looks like the buy signal has made target there. We have a potential double bottom here, but it hasn't broken up yet. In terms of the daily chart, we've got the RSI 14 bicycle has reached the possible near miss target and waiting to see if it can get over and sustain trade over this last high here at 48450. In terms of soybeans, we've got an IHS here and it's now starting to break up. So I've marked that as having broken up with a target in the 1560 area. And soybeans, I've been looking at that. I marked that in as a potential pattern back in March. It's taken a while. In terms of the left shoulder and the right shoulder, that's pretty well balanced. That took about 4 months. That took about 4 or 5. In terms of the daily chart, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed, but that's delivered nothing so far, and it's possible it might not. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a look at crypto. Now, the plan for this week was going to be. It did seem that the administration was dead set on really escalating the war over the weekend, and that all got cancelled. So I was kind of expecting equities down, oil up, and probably crypto down. So let's see how that's survived. We're still holding the daily middle band on the Bitcoin daily chart, and here we've broken down below the bear flag. That's the good news, and the bad news is we're back above that, and I am wondering whether we might be heading back into a retest this high here at 66.9. We will see how that goes. Looking at Solana. Solana is, of course, seeing a little bit of a breakup too. We are now testing the daily middle band, which we were pretty solidly below all last week. And here, I'm still wondering whether this might be a bull flag setting up a retest this high here at 83.89. It's not a great looking flag, but it does kind of look like a flag, so we shall see. Not all flags are created equal. Ethereum, we've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed, and this has had a very good night so far, bouncing hard off the daily middle band. Here, we're already seeing a retest of the high, and we're in danger of messing up my beautiful bear flag setup here. If it turns here, then that's a nice looking little double top to take us down into about the 1730 area. If this goes much higher, then it might kill my bear flag setup here, which would be a shame, because actually that was a pretty nice pattern. We shall see how that goes. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care. I'll catch you guys again on Wednesday. All right, cheers.